Hey folks, this is Rhykker, bringing you a Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls guide to the patch 2.2 Witch Doctor build that is topping the Greater Rift leaderboards. Now, one of the big draws of being a Witch Doctor is that whole Diablo 2 Necromancer vibe of being able to raise an army of undead and have those buggers follow you around. Well, patch 2.2 brought that playstyle back in a big way. Now, this build revolves around a few different sets and legendary items coming together to produce some really cool effects. But the most important one is the Carnevil voodoo mask. This makes your fetishes shoot a poison dart every time you do. And the only disadvantage is that you have to look like Queen Amidala. Next, we're gonna need the Zunimassa set. And while we are going for the full 6-piece set bonus, the most important one to getting this build to work is the 2-set bonus, which makes your fetish army last until they die. Now lastly, the third item that you'll need is the Dagger of Darts. And that makes all those darts that'll be shot out pierce through enemies. Right now in Diablo 3, area damage is king. And Poison Dart, the skill that we'll be using, isn't an area of effect power. However, there's just going to be so many of them on screen, and with their ability to pierce thanks to the Dagger of Darts, that this will roughly mimic the effect of having area damage. Now, it's possible to use this build without a Dagger of Darts. You can do Greater Rifts in the 30s comfortably, but you'll have a hard time if you try to push into the 40s without a Dagger of Darts. However, with a Dagger of Darts, Witch Doctors have cleared well into the high 50s. The gameplay footage that you're seeing here is recorded without the Dagger of Darts. I am not a Witch Doctor main. This is just to give you a sample of what you could expect. But the build that I'm presenting you, the gear, the items, this is all based on observation, scrutinization, and study of the top players. So let's take a look at the skills. First off, we have Poison Dart, Snake to the Face. Real simple, this is the crux of the build. This will be your main attack power, and every time you shoot with it, your fetishes will as well. Next we have Piranha's Piranado. This is a poison build, so we will be building towards poison damage. Piranado is a crowd control effect and serves as a damage buff, both by itself with that 15% increased damage to affected enemies, and because our Zunimassa's 6-piece set bonus makes enemies hit by your mana spenders take almost 300% more damage from your pets. And the brunt of your damage will be coming from the darts shot by your pets. Next we have Spirit Walk Jaunt. This is a tremendously powerful escape power, plain and simple. We'll circle back to the next power on our list in a moment, and head on straight to Big Bad Voodoo. This gives a huge attack speed buff, and the Slam Dance rune gives you a 30% damage increase. Now this is the few builds in the game that really benefits from attack speed. Since Poison Dart is a primary skill, you never run out of resource casting it, so the faster you can cast it, the more damage you will deal. This makes Big Bad Voodoo Slam Dance invaluable for those Rift Guardian fights. Next we have Fetish Army, Legion of Daggers. Plain and simple, Legion of Daggers gives you more fetishes than any other power. It doesn't matter what your fetishes are doing, you're just gonna make them shoot poison darts thanks to your Carnevil Helm. Then the last power we're gonna use is negotiable. We see a lot of variety among the top players. The one we're presenting here is Grasp of the Dead. This is an effect you lay down on the ground, it lasts 6 seconds, it slows enemies, and deals a bit of damage, but that damage isn't important. What's important is the slow effect, which will help us trigger our Bane of the Trapped gem, which we'll get to later. And again, we're calling back to our Zunimassa's set bonus. Enemies hit by your mana spenders take more damage. So because this effect is not just a one-time cast on an enemy, and it's on the ground instead, that means that more enemies rather, have a chance to walk into it. The Desperate Grasp rune simply lets you cast it more often. One alternative is Soul Harvest Languish. This power requires you to be a little more ballsy. You have to get into the thick of things, aim it carefully, know when to use it, and you're putting yourself at risk as well. But it has huge payoff. When you land it right, you can gain a huge damage bonus. And the Languish rune applies that crowd control and buffs your armor as well. Another option is Haunt Poisoned Spirit. This deals a ton of damage over a very, very long period of time. But more importantly, the Poison rune, the Poison Spirit rune, makes haunted enemies take 20% more damage. This makes it really strong against Rift Guardians. Rather than something that deals damage, think of it as a damage buff that you can cast, or that you have to cast, every 12 seconds. Onto the passives, you'll want Pierce the Veil. This is just a flat damage increase. Your main attack spell does not use mana, so this is basically free damage. Next, we want Grave Injustice. And this is mostly for the cooldown reduction. And what's cool about this is that the range is extended by items that increase your gold pickup radius. So if you can get those as secondary stats on your items, you don't have to get as close to the action and can keep yourself at a safer distance and still have the cooldown on your Big Bad Voodoo, for instance, drop down extremely rapidly. Next, Spirit Vessel. First off, this reduces the cooldown on Spirit Walk. Fantastic, but more importantly, it's that get out of jail free card. It's that one free revive every 90 seconds. Then lastly, Fetish Sycophants. As you go about fighting, hitting enemies, you're gonna spawn more fetishes. So the fetishes cast by Fetish Army will last until they die thanks to the Zunimassa, but the Fetish Sycophants from your passive only last 60 seconds. So this is like the movie Speed. You have to keep moving. You have to keep steaming forward, killing stuff. Anytime you die, anytime you have to reset and build up your army again, that's gonna hurt you. But once you've gone through that build-up time, once you've got your massive army out, you are a wrecking ball. Now, if you have a Hellfire Amulet and thus have access to a 5th passive, the one you'll want is Gruesome Feast. This turns health globes into temporary damage buffs. Now, onto our items. We'll present 2 different builds here, a main one and a variant that uses Augil's. And so for your shoulders, you'll either need Augil's shoulders, or ideally the pauldrons of the Skeleton King. The shoulders ultimately don't matter, but the pauldrons give you a chance to not die whenever you're killed. It's not a big chance, but it could mean the difference between succeeding and failing at a greater rift. The stats you'll want are Intelligence, Vitality, Cooldown Reduction, and Fetish Army Damage. For your Helm, you need the Carnevil. Ideal stats, Intelligence, Vitality, Crit Chance, and a socket with a diamond. For your amulet, a Hellfire would be ideal, but what's more important are the stats than the amulet itself. An Elemental Immunity Amulet will also work well here, specifically a Mara's. Mara's being the most useful because most Rift Guardians deal poison damage, and Mara's makes you immune to poison and healed by poison. But an Eye of Etlich also grants some good damage reduction, so you have a lot of options here. What's more important though, is that you get your ideal stats. Poison damage, crit damage, crit chance. Gloves are non-negotiable, you need Zunimassa's, and the stats we're going for are Intelligence plus the Trifecta. Yes, the Trifecta is back. Attack speed, crit chance, crit damage. On the chest, we want Zunimassa's, Int, Vitality, Fetish Army Damage. For your bracers, if you're going with Augil's, this will be your second piece of Augil's. Otherwise, you'll want Lacunis, and you're going to want to roll off that movement speed for more damage. So ideal stats, poison damage, intelligence, vitality, attack speed, and crit chance. For your belt, you want a Witching Hour, ideal stats, intelligence, attack speed, critical hit damage, and poison dart damage. For your rings, you want a Convention of Elements. Ideal stats, attack speed, crit damage, crit chance. As for your other ring, if you're using the Aughild set, then you'll be using a Ring of Royal Grandeur here. Otherwise, Zunimassa's Pox. Ideal stats, attack speed, crit damage, crit chance. For your pants, you need Zuni's, intelligence, vitality, poison dart damage. For your weapon, you want the Dagger of Darts. Ideal stats, 10% damage, intelligence, attack speed, and of course with the Ramaladni's gift, you're gonna add a socket. For your boots, all defensive stats, int, vitality, all resistant armor, and for your offhand, Zunimassa's once again. Intelligence, vitality, crit chance, fetish army damage, and increases damage against elites. For your legendary gems, you want Simplicity's Strength, that's a flat damage bonus to your Dagger of Darts, and the rank 25 gives you life leech on it. Next, you want the Enforcer gem. Once again, your damage isn't coming from that one poison dart you're shooting, but rather the 20 or so coming from all of your pets. And then last, we want the Bane of the Trapped. The Gogok of Swiftness used to be used here. That gave you some nice attack speed increase. However, instead, Bane of the Trapped results in more damage overall as long as you can keep your enemies under control and parrying effects. And the skills we've highlighted will allow you to do just that. Especially that Grasp of the Dead on the 6-second cooldown, which is 6 seconds before the cooldown reduction we recommended, plus Grave Injustice. That wraps up this guide. To get a full look at all the skills and gear pieces that we've been showcasing, check out the link in the description below. The website we were showcasing is d3planner.com, which is a tremendous utility for optimizing your character. Thanks for watching, check out these other videos, and if you enjoyed this one, share it with friends, leave a comment, hit like, and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders.